Welcome to the appendix, where we read the primary sources of the past so the present can be better understood. Today's primary source, Virginia Resolutions on the Assumptions of State Debts, December 16, 1790, as taken from Statutes at Large of Virginia, Volume 13, page 237. The opposition of Virginia to Hamilton's plan for the assumption of the state debts arose from the fact that Virginia had already made provisions for a large part of her revolutionary debt. The Virginia remonstrance was drafted by Patrick Henry and caused Hamilton to remark, quote, "This is the first symptom of a spirit which must either be killed or will kill the Constitution of the United States," unquote. In the House of Delegates, Thursday, the 16th of December, 1790, the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Virginia to the United States in Congress assembled. Respected, that it is with great concern they find themselves compelled with a sense of duty to call the attention of Congress to an act of their last session entitled An Act Making Provisions for the Debt of the United States, which the General Assembly conceive neither policy, justice, nor the Constitution warrants. Republican policy, in the opinion of your memorialists, could scarcely have suggested those causes in the aforesaid act which limit the right of the United States in their redemption of the public debt. On the contrary, they discern a striking resemblance between this system and that which was introduced into England at the Revolution, a system which has perpetuated upon that nation an enormous debt, and has moreover insinuated into the hands of the executive an unbounded influence, which, pervading every branch of the government, bears down all opposition, and daily threatens the destruction of everything that appertains to English liberty. The same causes produce the same effects. In an agricultural country like this, therefore, to erect and concentrate and perpetuate a large money interest is a measure which your memorialists apprehend must in the course of human events produce one or another of two evils: the prostration of agriculture at the feet of commerce, or a change in the present form of federal government, fatal to the existence of American liberty. The General Assembly passed by various other parts of the said act which they apprehend will have a dangerous and impolitic tendency, and proceed to show the injustice of it as it applies to this Commonwealth. Your memorialists turn away from the impolicy and injustice of the said act, and view it in another light, in which to them it appears still more odious and deformed. During the whole discussion of the federal Constitution by the Convention of Virginia, your memorialists were taught to believe, quote, that every power not granted was retained, unquote, under the impression, and upon this positive condition, declared in the instrument of ratification, the said government was adopted by the people of this Commonwealth. But your memorialists can find no clause in the Constitution authorizing Congress to assume the debts of the states. As the guardians, then, of the rights and interests of their constituents, as sentinels placed by them over the ministers of the federal government to shield it from their encroachments, or, at least, to sound the alarm when it is threatened with invasion, they can never reconcile it to their consciences, silently to acquiesce in a measure which violates that hallowed maxim, a maxim on the truth and sacredness of which the federal government depended for its adoption in this Commonwealth. But the injudicious act not only deserves the censure of the General Assembly because it is not warranted by the Constitution of the United States, but because it is repugnant to an express provision of that Constitution. This provision is that all debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation, which amounts to a constitutional ratification of the contracts respecting the state debts in the situation in which they existed under the Confederation, and resorting to that standard, there can be no doubt that in the present question the rights of the states as contracting with the United States must be considered as sacred. The General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Virginia confide so fully in the justice and wisdom of Congress upon the present occasion as to hope that they will revise and amend the aforesaid act generally and repeal in particular so much of it as relates to the assumption of the state of debts. December the 23rd, 1790, agreed to by the Senate. Thank you for joining us for our primary source today on the appendix. We'll see you in the text.